Good morning! Nice of you guys to drop by. Welcome, everybody, to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thanks for joining us on this Monday, our final episode for our discussion shows before Christmas. But we want to let you know that me, James, and Lacey are inviting you to join us Thursday night at 8:30 East for our live holiday party. So yeah, we are going to do a TRB live as we've been doing every Thursday. But the difference is this one's going to be more holiday themed, laid back, maybe not a topic driven thing. We're going to talk some news and talk Star Wars as always, but we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to do some unboxings, and we're going to have a good time. So, and if you're a patron, there's going to be an after party if you're an Admiral and up. So it's going to be a great time Thursday. But today, James and Lacey, we're here to talk about hype. And hype for this guy as I hold up the Din Djarin Mandalorian helmet and wear my, that's right, Mando fan show shirt. The Mandalorian is coming back in just over 2 months, which is insane to think about. And that means the Mando fan show is coming back too, which I know people love. We're going to get some cool guests lined up and stuff. But this episode is going to be all about the Mandalorian season 3 and our hype for it, because we haven't really, we haven't really turned the dial to it yet. I think a lot of people are waiting for New Year's. We want to get ahead of the curve because it's time. It's time to get hyped on Mando early and often. But before I do that, guys, I just want to ask you: Christmas coming up. We just said it, 6 days away. Are you done with shopping, or are you the person that runs out Christmas Eve and throws elbows around?
I'm not throwing elbows around, but I'm not completed. I'm usually most of my gifts are done, but stocking stuffers are the thing. Like I haven't even started, so I gotta have a day where I go and pick up stocking stuffers for everybody.
I've been done for months.
Months?
I finished my shop. Yeah, I finished my shopping in like September.
So you don't believe in the deals?
I get the deals in May.
They have May deals?
I buy.
They may or may not.
Oh, I see.
I buy all my stuff like throughout the year when it's on sale and stuff, and then I store it, and then I wrap it all, and then I give it away.
Nice. You know, my mom would always buy like her gifts from my dad. So,
oh, really?
Well, he would buy some stuff, but then she would open it and be like, "Oh, I wanted this. Thank you." I'm like, "Mom, I think you bought that." Like, it's from Dad.
I should do that. That's a good thing. Just buy like something nice for myself and wrap it from Rachel and be like, "This is so nice."
Exactly.
How did you know? And like she'd be like, "Are you joking?" I'd be like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
I think you forgot that you bought this back in May.
You had to have bought this and you forgot you packed it or something.
But yeah, with Kathleen, I already got her main gifts, but stocking stuffers, that's a good point, because I didn't really think about that. So I got to get some cool stocking stuffers. So we're pretty much good. We're in good shape here. So no elbows. Won't have to rip any arms out of sockets. Won't have to bring Chewie with me. But we're not talking Chewie. We're not really talking Christmas today. It's Mando time. But before we do that, James, we like to fire up the engines, warm up a bit with Star Wars by our first segment today, which is
Will of the Force.
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
Yeah, we got a couple questions, not just from us, but also from patrons. And we're going to kick it off with Will of the Force this week with one of those Patreon submissions. The first one is going to come from General Mike Waldron, Darth Hurricane. We know him. We love him. Mike sent us in the question. He wanted to know, will we ever see an animated series take place during the time of the original trilogy focused on any characters from the original trilogy? I'm going to start with Lacey on this one. What are your thoughts? Let Mike know.
I would say yes. I think that this is an easy way to bring back Luke, Han, Leia without touching anything dealing with live action in those characters. So I think that we could definitely see them coming back, like Luke and Leia and Han on their adventures. Like, what an easy way. We've already seen that in other kind of animated shorts and whatnot. So I would say yes.
John, do you agree with Lacey?
I do. I know they've filled in a lot of gaps with comics, but I also know how quick they are to sometimes say, well, we're not really selling any more of those. So let's tap into the well again. And as they branch out more, as they have to with Star Wars, away from the legacy characters, I agree with Lacey. This is a good way to keep that one arm close to the OG. And you can get voice actors that sound similar and revisit those characters. And it doesn't have to be these big monumental things, but there's clearly things that happen between those movies that you can have some fun with. And even, Luke's journey from the end of Empire to where we see him at the beginning of, Return of the Jedi, the Kyber crystal, all that stuff. And yeah, maybe the comics do touch on a bunch of this stuff, but I think an animated series could be pretty cool. And I would love it. I think I'd really enjoy watching that. So I'm going to say yes, Mike. What do you think, man? And great pod race last week, by the way.
Great job.
I also think yes. And I think that it makes sense. And I think there's always ways to stick in another story here or there. They do it obviously all the time in the comics. So there's ways to wedge in this or that. But maybe something that we haven't thought about is that we are on the verge of Kathleen Kennedy possibly being at the end of her time as the president of Lucasfilm, and it is very possible that somebody else comes in and goes, I have a different vision of this connected world, this is non-canon. We're going to do non-canon stories, or we're going to, split it up like we did before. Because I could understand someone being in a position that's saying, I want to make money for this company, and I don't like this idea of being handcuffed by canon. So we might be on the verge of saying, Kathleen Kennedy, 10, 12 years of her being the CEO of this particular Disney canon. It was good while we did it, and now we're going to start doing other stories that don't necessarily have to be hooked onto that. And they could potentially kick that off in a big way by being like, we're going to tell stories of Han, Luke, and Leia in between Empire and Return of the Jedi and blah, 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 So I think we could be on the verge of not being handcuffed by canon, and therefore this would make even more sense. Let's talk about our next question, which is, will a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi be announced at Star Wars Celebration 2023? That's London. And John, are we going to be seeing a second season of Obi-Wan announced?
Look, I from our delightful Twitter account at TRB Podcasts, I went down memory lane recently and tweeted the GIF of you smashing a pie in my face because I thought the original Obi-Wan Kenobi series would be announced at the 2019 celebration. It wasn't. Lemon meringue to my eyeballs because of that. So because of that, I'm nervous to say yes, but at the same time, I don't think we're betting on it. So I'm going to say yes because I think this Obi-Wan thing is probably going to happen again. And not for the reason people may think, which is Ewan McGregor saying he wants to do it. I think there's a little bit of a sour taste with the execution of season 1, and they maybe want to do a little bit of a redempt, not retelling. That exists, but let's do a the Suicide Squad. Let's get another go at this. Follow it up. It counts. It's canon. Mm-hmm. But let's do it again and maybe make it feel less volume-y.
Gotcha. Lacey, thoughts?
I'm going to say no. I don't think they're going to announce. They will not announce Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2.
Which is probably right.
Okay. I think season 1 was great as it was. I think fans were happy with it. I don't think there's... I know... Ewan McGregor keeps saying, and Hayden Christensen too keeps saying that they do more or they want more. Deborah Chow was very clear that she was like, this is a 1 season thing. Like, we're doing this for 1 season. That's it. Now, would Disney make the choice that they could want more? If they want more, they're a business. Sure. I just don't think they do. I think we've been talking about in a couple months now, how Disney's pivoting in the way they're handling streaming, especially. I'm going to say no, they will not.
Pivot. Man, I'm a little bit between like both answers. I think are right, John. I don't think they will say it at this one. I think that is true, but I am on board with you for your reasoning that they could do a season 2. I do like the idea of them, and I hate to say it, but it might also be like Deborah Chow not returning. You know,
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a very realistic.
I think maybe they just put like too much on her as far as like how to handle the volume and stuff. Like she was obviously very experienced, and I think that she got a lot of praise for the episode she was in, but I don't always necessarily agree that it's because of the direction. I think just she got good episodes, like storytelling episodes that were big, and it's nothing against her, and I still like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I think when people point to that show, any show, not being as good as it could, you usually are pointing at like the showrunner as the person who's handling that. So I don't know, but I think you're right. They could make season 2 bigger and stronger, and build off of that off this first season, and I think it would be good. But maybe not for Celebration 2023. So no. All right. Let's go to the next one, which is another Patreon submission. This one is actually coming from one of our Major Brad. Brad wanted to know, will they ever recast Luke Skywalker for another cameo mini arc in Mando or any other show? So even though we've gotten the CGI remake of the character, is there a chance that they could ever recast Luke Skywalker for another piece of content? What do you think, Lacey?
Brad, thank you for your question. Really appreciate it. No, they will not. They will never recast Luke Skywalker. I think he is an untouchable character. I think that he is a hot topic / touch point for a lot of Star Wars fans, from The Last Jedi to after, to what they did with Mando. I think a lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. I don't think they're ever going to recast him. If they bring him back, he's going to be the CG one we saw in Mando, which I think, and we can all agree, the second one looked amazing compared to the first one, which looked great too. Technology is only going to get better, and I can never see them recasting him.
John, do you agree with
and that's
Lacey?
Going with Solo, us wanting a Solo too, with a recasted Han. So
yeah.
Well, so that's the thing I was going to bring up. Like, so I think you could always. I think the Lucasfilm rule, which they never have openly admitted, is we will predate an actor and recast. Ewan McGregor, Alden Ehrenreich, little kid Luke Skywalker from Obi-Wan Kenobi. But this question seems to be in the time where Mark Hamill was rocking and rolling. Are they going to bring in the next Sebastian Stan?
Stan, yeah.
And I, to that, also say no. So I know people, and I'm glad Lacey brought that up, because people are going to be like, well, you guys are always talking about Solo 2, and they did it for Solo. Prequels, they do it. They do that. Anything predating Harrison Ford, good. But they're not going to recast Han Solo post or during Harrison's time. Same with Carrie, because they recasted young Leia as a kid. But you have to look at the timeline. And if that actor's there beyond that, I don't think they do it, because they haven't. So, and look at Leia in Episode 9. They could have recast her, and they're like, nope, we're just going to use footage of this dead person because it's her, and it's only her. So I agree with Lacey completely. No chance we're getting a recast of Luke Skywalker in that way.
Yeah, I do agree. I also think it would be interesting. Another question for another time. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but would they ever show Daisy Ridley at the age she is, and then have some sort of thing where we see an older Rey that isn't her played by another actor? You know what I mean? And then have a future recast sort of thing, because they need an older person instead of trying to age her up, do a digital thing or something. I don't know. Anyway, another time. But I think that you guys are right that currently they will not ever recast Luke Skywalker, and I think it would be a bad move by whatever new CEO or president would be in the future, because I just don't think it would handle the I don't think the fan base would react to it positively. It's just kind of one of those things. But in a bubble, me personally, I would think it was cool just to, I would be okay with understanding that Luke Skywalker is a fictional character and these are retellings of his story, and like let that person be James Bond for a while, then let this person be James Bond or whatever, and just get different flavors and stuff and takes on certain characters. I would be okay in that bubble, but realistically, you guys are right. That's a bad move, I think, to do that. So
Imagine being the actor. Forget it.
yeah, but I like the well, I mean, yeah, I think people would do it if you could do it successfully. Like you could play in that world, like, hey, we're doing a different take on Lando for this one, or whatever. But to answer the question, I don't think it'll happen, especially anytime soon with Mandalorian and stuff. All right, last question before we get to our next segment. The question is, will The Mandalorian Season 3 have a jaw-dropping moment as big and as memorable as Luke Skywalker's appearance in the Season 2 finale? So are we just going to keep topping one after the other? John, what do you think?
I got to say yes, because they did it for 2 seasons in a row now. And this, we're going to get into it in a bit about our hype for Season 3. It just feels like it's going to be bigger and grander. And I think there's reasons why they did this beyond story. So if you're going to go bigger and grander, you got to meet that level of, oh my God, they just did that. So I say yes.
Lacey?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with John 100%. The Mandalorian Season 3 will have a jaw-dropping, I think multiple jaw-dropping, big and memorable moments.
I'm so excited. Like I'm already like, oh my God.
Yeah, every single person that works on has worked on Season 3 has been talking about how it's bigger and better than ever, and people aren't ready for what's coming, and all these like, and every time they've dropped things like this in previous seasons, they were right. I mean, we went into Season 2 of The Mandalorian being like, how do you top the Grogu reveal? How do you ever top that? And while, yes, there's an emotional connection to that of like, oh my God, that feeling, but the Luke Skywalker reveal was just as big as a feeling as that. And then, I just know Jon Favreau is trying to blow our minds with every season here. Like, this is his dream project. Like, he's going to pull out all the stops for this. So I'm saying yes.
You're right about multiple, because I'm thinking now Season 1 did Grogu to start, and then they did Darksaber to end.
I was going to say Darksaber was a big reveal.
And Season 2, Boba
Great
Fett.
Dragon to start.
Boba Fett shows up.
Yep.
And then Luke, like, which is
and then Luke,
and Ahsoka.
And Ahsoka and Thrawn mention, yeah. Bo-Katan.
So, but all of those are less than the Luke Skywalker appearance at the end in the finale.
Fair.
Or the Grogu.
So they have to. They can't just have big jaw-dropping moments like the Crate Dragon. You have to have something that tops Luke Skywalker showing up in Season 3,
or as big.
Or as big, yeah, I guess you could say equal
so bigger
amount
Luke.
of whoa, yeah. So bigger Luke shows up. Luke, makes his appearance. No, 2 different Lukes. For me, I think you guys are right. We can get into it a little bit more when we get into the speculation. But I will say, if there's a little bit of a caveat to this, it does make me wonder what could really be bigger than Luke Skywalker showing up. It's like the only thing I can think is like you have to have something group related. You have to see like multiple people. It has to be Luke and other people, to make it like a memorable scene or moment or something. But we'll get into some of that speculation here after we get through the next section. But I do think you guys are right on that to end up Will of the Force this week, that Season 3 will continue to have it will have at least one very big specific moment that we take away from that season and be like, Season 3 was the season that brought us that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right, that is going to be it for Will of the Force this week. Lacey, take us into our next section. What do we got?
All right, guys, it's time for the Patreon pod race. All right, guys. So I love this segment. We all do. This is the part where we let our generals and spice runners take part in the show. We ask them a question, they give us their answer, we react to it. But before that, I do have to mention that they're a part of this because they're a part of our community on patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Now you can support us on YouTube by subscribing to our new channel, on our social channels, which are now all at TRB Podcasts. But if you want to be a part of the community and help us build everything that we're doing here and continuing on into the next year and just like supporting what we do, like I said, patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Starting at just $5 a month, you get to take part in the page and what we do there. We have Discord access, special giveaways, and much more as you go up in the ranks, including being part of the show with Will of the Force and then with this. So our top 2 tiers are generals and spice runners get to be a part of the show here. And this week we do have pod racer Aaron Ellington, one of our generals, which is really exciting. But before we do that, I do want to thank some of those people. So first up, thank you to our generals: Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny Micromori, Matt Heath, Chris White, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, Sneaky Zebra, Paul Sullivan, and Aaron Ellington, which will be
Wow.
soon. And then our Spice Runners: David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gellner, Ryan Wara, Dave Hornack, Thomas Hennessy, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and Michael Fry. So Aaron, you're up. We're
Thank
excited
you
to
all.
have you. Yep, thank you. Your question is, as a big Ahsoka fan, how do you think Rosario Dawson is doing in live action, and what are your expectations heading into the Ahsoka series? So Aaron, take it away.
Dun, 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 dun. Hello, TRB. I'm Aaron, and this is my son,
Andy!
and we love Ahsoka Tano. Andy, how excited?
Yeah, so excited!
Okay, I guess you won't even let me finish the question. All right. So I think Rosario Dawson did a fantastic job in The Mandalorian, amazing in Book of Boba Fett, and I'm so excited for her to have her own show and see her in that. With Ashley Eckstein recently visiting the set, makes me feel even better about how it's going to go. And with Dave Filoni in charge, I don't think it could go wrong. All right, that's all we got. Thank you, TRB. Bye.
Bye!
Wow, Aaron. What an amazing pod race. We love seeing you and your son, Andy, on the show. What a great way to kick off your time as a general here in the Resistance. So, John, what did you think of his answer?
So it's funny because now we have the Crawl trilogy.
Yeah.
You had
We
Frank,
really do.
Michael, and now Aaron.
Now
and
you
Andy.
can stop doing it for 30 years
Yeah.
and then bring it
come
back.
Yeah. Or we'll do spin-offs with no Crawl. But
Yeah.
and I like that they interacted with each other on our Discord. Frank was like laughing at that Michael did what he did, and he's like, he said, I love this community. It's like when Winston and Ghostbusters said, I love this town, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
But Aaron, you and Andy did such a great job. I love that you were in the Falcon. So it's cool that you guys talked to
What production value? Wow.
who owns it now? Poe, I guess. Is Poe the owner? Or is Ray?
I think
I don't
Ray
know.
is. Ray
She-
went
yeah.
to Tatooine.
She went there with it, but yeah.
I think
maybe.
Ray does.
All right. Ray gets everything.
Never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I'll let you borrow the Falcon for a day. But I'm
No
glad that
difficult
Andy, I just want to say I'm glad that you convinced Ray to let you borrow the Falcon because you and your dad look like you fit right in there and you belong there. So I like that. You both did a great job. I can see how excited you both are. You are as excited as we are for Mando, like we're going to get into in a minute. But I love the answer, and the fact that you felt better or good knowing that Ashley Eckstein was there, sort of giving her blessing. I think it's a really cool thing. And, you feel secure with Dave sort of handling the reins. So, but I had a big smile on my face all 45 seconds of that clip. So I want to thank you guys for that because I needed it when I watched it. So great job. And I look forward to your next one. Great debut on the pod race. And now you get to pass the baton. But thanks for all your support. Thanks for being a part of TRB, and both Aaron and Andy. Thanks, fellas.
James?
Yeah, obviously great debut, great little add-on with the third opening crawl. That was very cool. Yeah, again, I echoed the sentiments of Ahsoka and everything, how she's being handled and everything about Ashley Eckstein. Like I'm just agreeing with you 100%. I do want to also mention too that I know, Aaron, that you are no Jedi. And Andy, I can read your shirt, and I do think we should be friends. So that is
What does it say?
it says. If you can read this, then we should be friends.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well done. Guys, again, awesome job. We're so pumped when we get stuff like this to include on the show. It just really makes our day. And hopefully other listeners think that as well, which I think they will. I love hearing your perspective on Ahsoka. I think everyone is excited for what's to come for that character. And it's hard not to be rooting for Rosario Dawson when Ashley's rooting for her as well. And seeing pictures of them together at Comic-Cons and stuff, it's just so great. And again, you can't not trust Dave Filoni. It's his character. So he's going to do what's best for her. But yeah, thank you so much. And now we're going to head into the discussion with John.
That is right. Our discussion this week: why we are hyped for The Mandalorian Season 3.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, folks. The Mandalorian Season 3 is just over 2 months away, believe it or not. So it's time to now turn our attention back to Mando and Grogu and all those characters in that series, and even some we're going to meet this season, and how it's quite possibly going to be the best season of The Mandalorian yet. I mean, we'll discuss it here and see if we think that's the case, but I'm feeling it. So we've punched our tickets. We've boarded the hype train to Mando Season 3, which will be accompanied by the long-awaited return of the Mando fan show on March 1st, which is, of course, when the Mandalorian Season 3 comes out, at least as of now. So very excited to talk about this. We haven't really dedicated large chunk of time talking about Mando Season 3 just yet. So I know it's going to be here before we know it. And I just thought it'd be a good time to now turn our attention to it because, you know, news is slow and we like to have these discussions, and sometimes we do the evergreen discussions, but sometimes it's just got to be looking right at what's in front of us. And this time it's the one that started it all, The Mandalorian, coming back, Season 3, 8 episodes, Favreau, Filoni, the whole gang, Mando, Grogu, and just that answering that Will of the Force question about the jaw-dropping moments and stuff, and just thinking about waking up and watching an episode of Mando and not knowing what to expect that week. I'm getting really excited. So I'll just toss it to James. I'll toss it to you first because I know we all know Lacey's already on the train.
I'm wearing a Mando shirt.
She's got a Mando shirt. She bought her train ticket on the hype train in May when she finished her Christmas shopping, which was good. But James, what for hype for Mando Season 3, was it kicked off immediately for you when you were in that panel at Celebration? Was it watching that trailer again at home? Like, what's getting you hyped most out of the gate for Mando Season 3?
Well, there's sort of two things. And the first thing, to answer your question about when do you start getting hyped? Yeah, that panel was huge. That panel was awesome. And part of that is them bringing out, like Sabine. And like, there's just something so big about like, they're doing it. They're doing that story. That there's this other storyline. Mando's great, but there's this other show and it's coming together and it's all one big thing and all of it matters. Like there was so much to things that they were announcing about it's not even necessarily Mando Season 3, but she was in that Mando Plus, and all that. So, and I know that's Ahsoka related, but it feels like Mando Season 3 is taking us in that direction. That's one reason to possibly be excited about where we're going to see The Mandalorian go. But the other side of that, the other answer to it, in my opinion, is the fact that like, and we've brought this up many times, like, say what you will about this property in Star Wars, say what you will about this property in Star Wars. The Mandalorian does have this sort of unified acceptance of like, we all like it. Not everybody likes it, but it is like, if you went around and you ask everybody, like, what's the best live action thing, or what's the best thing that Disney has done? There's a good chance that Mandalorian is up on the top of those lists. And even if they're not someone's favorite, it's probably like 2 or 3,
Yeah.
You're going to get other people that are like, Boba Fett's the best. And you're going to get people that are like, Boba Fett stunk, and it's like in the middle. But like, Mandalorian is always going to be near the top. There's not very many people that like, I hate that show, and it's controversial and it's a problem. It's a very good, positive time for Star Wars whenever Mandalorian is up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lacey, is it just, going back? Because you said that in a recent episode. You're like, I'm just excited to go back and see them again and that sort of thing. And was it, seeing them in the Book of Boba Fett and juxtaposing that against the Book of Boba Fett right in the middle of that season to make you realize like this is something, special? Like where is it at with you heading in out of the gate? And when did you first, because you and I didn't get to go to that panel. We were sitting holding our spot for the Mandalorian experience,
which was incredible. My favorite thing I did at Celebration, outside of obviously like stuff for the podcast, but
so
as a
was it
fan,
that
was the best thing. Well, so I don't know if that's driving my excitement necessarily, that whole exhibit, but just the reiteration of my love for it. There's something so special about The Mandalorian in the sense of, as Star Wars fans, we've all come from different points of, this is what it means to be a Star Wars fan for me. Like, oh, I started with the original trilogy. I started with the prequels. I started with the animation shows. With The Mandalorian, we all started at the same place. And I think there's something very comforting, and there's like camaraderie that goes with that of, oh, we all started here. So we're all fans of this. And I like,
good point.
I like the aspect of watching it every week together and talking about it every week together, and just the general hype around the show that lasts for a good period of time, where I feel like even with Andor or Book of Boba Fett, there was moments with both of those series and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I forgot Obi-Wan Kenobi for a second. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, where people weren't really talking about it. Whereas The Mandalorian, that is what everyone is talking about all the time, outside of just Star Wars fans, but everyone. And we all know that Grogu, Baby Yoda, has just surpassed anything outside of just being for Star Wars fans or just being for pop culture fans. Like, everybody knows who Grogu is. Like, my mom knows who Grogu is. It's just, he's crazy. Like, he's just become such a part of like pop culture, and just like, just there, like referencing memes, internet.
It's transcended Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so great that the excitement of going back to that world, especially in a time like now when it hasn't been an easy couple of years for me, or you guys as well, or most people, I would say, to go back to something that's just fun, which has obviously these deeper emotional moments, don't get me wrong, but overall is fun and whimsical, a space western adventure that you're going to leave every episode smiling. And I think that that's something that I personally need right now, is something that I'm going to enjoy every single episode and just feel like, wow, I'm really going on an adventure right now with people that I love and really care about. And like, there's this kind of family feel that it has to it compared to other things within Star Wars and other things in general, that Jon Favreau is what brings that to the show. Like, his ability to take something and make it family oriented and wanting to make it for families to watch together is so important to me, and I think Star Wars as a whole, because I think sometimes people lose the sight of, this is made for kids. And when Dave Filoni talks about how George always said, hey, make it for kids, make it hopeful for kids. Look, Andor's great. It's not for kids. It's not for families to watch together. And there's something that gets lost in that. Whereas when you're watching The Mandalorian, it's just a fun watch. And it has these moments that like you really connect with. And The Mandalorian is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I've grown to love it, and I've loved everything around it, the hype, the toys, the collectibles, the actors, the just kind of culture that surrounds The Mandalorian. So I'm excited for it to come back.
Yeah, I think what has me most hyped is the level of confidence I feel in it, and that stems from Favreau, of
It
course.
hasn't missed for me yet.
Right. Yeah, it's a Favreau without question, but also Filoni. And, and the two of them together, I think Dave fills in some of the finer gaps, but Jon Favreau is telling this story. So no one should be, confused or fooled by that, writing most of it and writing all the story, but writing most of the scripts and stuff. And I was thinking about it, and Jon Favreau is very, he's deliberate. He plans things out. He doesn't do anything by mistake. And you see that this season clearly is grander and it's going to be bigger. I think that's narratively. I think that is from a scene perspective and a scope. And I was looking at something and this is just, a feeling, because I think there is friendly competition. Mandalorian, Andor, I should say, season 1 filmed from November of 2020 to September of 2021. And Mando started filming in October of 2021 and finished in March of 2022. And I can't help but think a gift that Andor gave to The Mandalorian is sort of a kick in the rear end in terms of like up in the ante for scale and that sort of thing.
Right, with locations and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Mando still did almost all shooting in Manhattan Beach and stuff like that, but they maybe said, we can't just rest on our laurels of that this looks awesome. We need to make sure that it does, and that people can't point out, like James said, the small room in Obi-Wan in that one episode or something, And you see it sort of in some of the scenes in the trailer. It does feel different. There's a different look. It feels like there's more of a horizon. It feels like there's more of a landscape in this season. And I know it sounds like there's going to be more adventure and connected adventure across the episodes. Mandalore is going to be involved. First time seeing full fleshed out Mandalorian live action. I think they know, like Filoni knows they got to deliver on that.
It's so crazy. Yeah, it's so crazy.
So I can't help but think that Favreau was like, all right, we're still the ones that set the bar, but I think I see what they did with Andor. I think, we need to take this to the next level. And then I take it to my next point, and I actually did a little research, and they got David Klein to be the cinematographer for season 3. And he got his start with Kevin Smith. He did Kevin Smith's movies and worked his way up. And he did Homeland, which I know a lot of people love. And also the episode of Mando he did was The Tragedy, the one where Boba Fett arrived, the one where Grogu gets taken away. A lot of fight scenes, but also I looked at the reviews on that. It's like 10s, 9.1 on IMDb, 100% Rotten Tomatoes. Critics lauded that episode as beautifully shot. They brought in their guy that they felt like really nailed it for season 2 to be the cinematographer for this entire season. And I think that's a really exciting thing to look forward to. And then the final thing is just knowing now that Grogu is taking that next step in his journey, and we speculated on maybe he starts speaking now, and maybe that's the necessary next move in that relationship, so that's not stale. So now we get to see his personality and see him interact more with Din, because he's older than Din Djarin, and he has more experience that he hasn't really fully tapped into yet. I think
that's
there's
so
a potential.
Crazy to consider. I didn't even think about that. He is older than Din Djarin.
He's and Din is still like his dad, and I get that sort of thing because they age at different scales and ratios. But just something about that this story is far from over, that we're incorporating things like James said to take us into Ahsoka. Sabine's going to be involved, but more or less just seeing where Din and Grogu can go now, that they're back together, and me not knowing where this story ends gets me hyped too. So every aspect of it does, but the biggest things are that knowing it's Favreau, knowing it's Filoni, and they're a great pair, and I hope they stay together for a long time. It's going to be bigger, grander, and that they got the cinematographer that they loved from that lauded episode, The Tragedy. So just all these things are coming into place, and I'm just so excited.
I want to jump in. So I left Will the Force saying, let's talk a little bit about what we think that bigger and grander could be, right? And I think
like the
from
surprise thing, you mean?
yeah, like a cultural standpoint. Well, what is the thing that we're like going to be like, man, like in season 2, they gave us the Luke Skywalker moment. That was cool. But in season 3, they really upped it when they, you know what I mean? It's like, so my initial thoughts is like another character reveal. I don't know how you're going to top Luke Skywalker. So I think if I'm maybe looking at like in between their words, you know, reading between the lines of like when they're saying like it's bigger and grander, and John, you bring a great point of bringing in the guy who can maybe shoot things and maybe make it look bigger to compare it to like Andor and how they had real sets and all this stuff. I think potentially what could make this show big in season 3 is a full scale battle on ground.
On Mandalore?
Or like whether it's a flashback and they're going back, this is how it happened. But so far they've done flashbacks. They tend to do it in like slow motion and stuff. So it doesn't really feel like we're going to go back in time and see it happen. So my thought is we're seeing scenes of Din Djarin with other Mandalorians around him. You're always talking about bringing in like where the Coven went and the Children of the Watch coming back in and being part of the show in season 3. Maybe that's growing. Maybe there's other things. You're talking about Bo-Katan and the cults, and there's other people. Oh, you think your father's the only Mandalorian, you know, and stuff. And all this, yeah. I'm like, I think what we're gonna see in season 3 that will be really cool is the rise and reveal of many Mandalorians across, and maybe they don't all get along. So you're seeing the small scale war happening between multiple, civil war about what's the right way to be a Mandalorian. What does the creed really mean? And all this, you see Bo-Katan, you see Din Djarin, you see maybe other ones where we're like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, X person from, you know, the Clone Wars is in this now or whatever.
And the question is, where does the Mandalorian lie as the Mandalorian?
Yes, exactly. And so like we could go, I mean, the Darksaber is all part of that and like leading the war and leading the charge and stuff. But I mean, if we led up to a full scale Mandalorian battle and you just see it like laid out with all these warriors and stuff, I think that, I mean, take what we saw in season 3 season 1, episode 3 of Mandalorians just coming up with jetpacks over the top and blasting down, and how ridiculous that was.
Episode 3 was crazy.
Looking back after we get season 3 and going back to that episode, you're like, this feels tiny now.
Right.
You know? Like, I think we could look at season 3 and be like, I can't believe they delivered on a full-scale Mandalorian war front, you know, and it'd just be a big scale production. And it will even more solidify how awesome that show was.
Is there any
That's my guess. That's my guess for season 3.
So to take that and say yes, but then from there, I think about Moff Gideon, and I think I could be wrong, but I think Giancarlo Esposito said something about
he wishes he could be Mandalorian.
Yeah, he wants to be a Mandalorian or something like that, and he has artifacts or Mandalorian armor or something. And also, didn't he allude to something about finding out who he works for? And that's why, like, why was he so quick to try to kill himself?
Yeah, I think that's the whole Thrawn thing, to be honest.
Well, that could be, but also let's not forget some of the early plot threads of season 1 that the
lab
they didn't address in season 2, like directly.
the
clone thing.
connection and all that.
Why do they want Grogu and take his blood and the midichlorian
the
counts and
patches, yeah, all
stuff?
that and stuff. Yeah.
So people might hate this. Is it possible there's, an Exegol tie or anything like that? I don't know that. I don't know that there is, but that would make sense timeline wise. He has this high count. Why do they want his midichlorian count? And I think Pershing. I think he
Pershing.
survived, right?
He did.
Yes, he's
So-
in the trailer.
He
for
just
3.
has no ear. I think his
He has
ear's
no
gone,
ear?
isn't it? Didn't he get his ear kind of blown off?
Did he?
Yeah, at the end of the season.
Well, they can clone him
Shot
a new
his
ear.
ear.
So whatever.
The last time we saw him was in the episode where they break into the base, right? And they show
Yeah.
like that weird thing in the tube at the end.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
shot
How's
his
the-
ear.
They shot his
okay.
ear off. I don't remember that. They,
I gotta rewatch that.
they
man.
Hollyfield him.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's something that has to be answered. They did the whole lab thing, the Carl Weathers episode where they had the gene guy. They did
Yeah.
the whole like Snoke reveal where it looked like Snoke or whatever's in the test tube.
Yeah.
The whole reason why Grogu is being taken in the first place hasn't been answered. Like you said, there are lots of questions that need to be answered. And I think we're going to get. Is my understanding that they're doing 5 seasons of this, or they haven't said yet?
I don't think
I don't
they
think-
said yet.
Yeah,
But they're
I
doing
think
at least 4 because he's
I think
written
4
4.
is I think 4 is a guarantee. Yeah.
So my response to that is they have to answer some questions, but then also add more questions going into the next season because they want to keep you around, interested in what's going on.
And I don't think
Not to-
Favreau's pulling a Lost where he's going to not address things.
No. And not to kind of go off on too much of a tangent, but we were talking about big reveal moments. I think the big reveal moment of this season is going to be Grogu not necessarily talking, but fighting, doing some type of fight move from training as a Padawan that he's getting his confidence back, and he could even grab the Darksaber and, surprise
So we're
everyone.
talking first time watching Attack of the Clones Yoda moment type of craziness.
I'm not saying like jumping around the screen, but it could be like kind of like a Rey moment in TFA where
Mhm.
the saber gets thrown away and then he grabs it and calls it to him and then he lights it or something.
Did you
So-
guys see Attack of the Clones in
Because-
theaters?
No, but even
Yes, I
Moff Gideon had said, "Don't you want this to him? Don't you want this to the dark
yeah.
side member?" So I
Mhm.
feel like that's another example of like he knows it's a lightsaber. So
Do you know what I'd
That
like
reminds me
to
of-
see that I think could work for Grogu? Is I've always liked the idea of the Jedi that doesn't necessarily use his hand, but like lets the blade float in front of them and deflect things. Like they're using the Force to kind of control the blade in front of them.
I get it. Yeah.
And like I think that could be a cool, like it's not like campy as like he grabs the thing and it's bigger than him and he's like or whatever.
Mhm.
But they could do something like, oh my god, I can't believe it, what I just witnessed. You know what I mean? It just flies up, deflects a few bullets or something, and then like maybe flies at the opponent and kills him or something. And it's like, what just happened? Did
Well, it's kinda
Grogu
like-
do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Cal Kestis in the new trailer where he uses the stormtrooper to block blasters and stuff with remember he like uses the Force to use the stormtrooper as basically a shield.
Oh yeah.
Oh, does he
yeah.
pick him up?
Yeah.
I thought he
picked
was
him up.
grabbing him. No, he picked him up. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Picks him up by the Force and then like uses him as like a human shield. So
Yeah.
Well-
similar to what you're saying with the lightsaber, he's fighting with it but not holding it.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah. I just
To
think it
this
could be
point,
interesting.
like they really made it a point from chapter 2 through Book of Boba Fett to show us how powerful Grogu is with telekinesis in the Force and how to manipulate not only objects but creatures and submit them or stall them in motion. Also calming them down, healing. He healed Grief Karga. He has that level of the Force like Rey had, so that maybe that was in their mind thinking like, we want to stick to this as practical as possible. How can we do that and have him use the Force to shy away from having to have him use a lightsaber all the time. And James, I do like your point about not having him have to hold it, but maybe, which I'd be cool with, because like when we first met Yoda, like as far as I knew, Yoda never used a lightsaber until we saw the prequels. And Yoda always said the Force is used for knowledge and defense, never attack. And as you said, James, they use the lightsaber to deflect things, and I understand that. But maybe he will have that lightsaber, because did he take it? I don't remember. Like, did we
They don't
confirm
show
he
that. They
took it?
only show that he has the chainmail shirt.
And it was Yoda's that Luke showed him, right?
Yeah, but they didn't show him take it, so you don't know if
Right.
he takes it. So that could be the reveal too. He pulls it out and then starts fighting with that lightsaber.
Could be cool for merch, yeah, too. Not to be shallow about it, but that's something Disney thinks about for cool.
Well, they already have it though. Are they pushing? Do they have merch right now with the chainmail?
I mean,
He's talking about
lightsaber.
the lightsaber.
I
Yoda's
know, but I'm
lightsaber.
saying, but if they haven't done the chainmail yet, then they still have that to move forward with.
Yeah, I don't think they
Yeah.
have yet.
I wonder if they're gonna do that or try to like have him utilize the Force that they've been showing. Because, like I said, Favreau, doesn't do things on just to do them. He likes to slowly, like he says, unfold the story. And from the first time we saw him use the Force, it was holding up that beast. I forget the name of it, the Minosaur or whatever it was.
Right.
That
The Mudhorn.
yeah, is that what Mudhorn that Mando had to kill?
Yeah,
So
I think
our first time
is like mythological or something.
well, isn't it all? Was right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Woolly Mammoth, whatever it was. But the first time we see this baby Yoda, which we didn't know his name yet, Grogu, use the Force, was suspending that giant creature in the midair. That's not by accident. So I think that level of him using the Forces and also calming the Rancor, I think that level of the Force is more of what we're going to see.
He
with
showed a
Grogu.
very wide variety of Force powers. Like when it comes to like he picked something up, he's blocked fire, he's healed people. Yeah, it feels like
Talks
he's
to
also he's had some sort of and Ahsoka as well. Like there's some things, although I don't know that that's not them leading that.
Well, he reached out to Luke via the
but
Seeing
also
Stone.
on this like the thing that's meant to do that. I don't know. There's a
And
couple
he
things,
does it so much though that it knocks him
you're
out.
right. Yeah, you're right. There's definitely a lot of things. So I think there's more to it as well. Like we would not have expected so and so to have this ability, but until they reveal it, So it's like he could have Force powers that we've never seen before, and we're like, what is happening? Kind of like Luke's like the shadow thing. Like he was using the Force to create a vision of himself, doppelganger sort of thing. And it's like they could come up with Grogu's ability to do certain things in the Force that would be
that we've
crazy.
never seen before.
Yeah, like he could still be in the body of a young person, but he could use the Force to create him to be older and have conversations and be a viable character with Mandalorian, but then with Mando, and then like he somehow like stops doing that and goes back to his baby form or something. Like they could do whatever they want.
Yeah, and they did Force fighting now. Yeah.
Yeah. Then it doesn't have to be a baby fighting. They could have an older version fighting, but it's like some sort of like physical projection of his age
Yoda
or something, or whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
Well, to change directions, just a real quick thing. Do you think
we're getting a little crazy? I'm getting crazy.
I love this stuff. So, but
you want to get nuts?
Do you think there's any mention whatsoever of Cara Dune?
No,
I don't either. I almost forgot about the character.
I don't know. I think
maybe.
I think she might be a throwaway at some point. Like, because you can't have a character like that that's so central to so many different storylines and clearly was leading something different. Like, she has a whole moment with Carson Teva, Bill Burr's character, all these people, and you can't just never mention her again. Like, they have to say something like, oh, she went off planet, or oh, she left one night and never came back. Like, something. They have to explain it.
Or you just don't. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think everybody's fully aware of why they would not address that situation.
Totally. I agree with that. I think it would be say nothing happened that happened in real life, it would be a weird a weird story choice to not say anything.
And and the thing about it is too, like, if you pay attention to social media and stuff, like, you'll still see people who are involved in Mandalorian who like her, like, normal posts online and stuff. Like, I think they all still like her as a person. She just took things too far and dug her heels too far in the sand with things that were really stupid, in my opinion. But I think, so because of that, I think there's more of a warmth to her as a person with the people who knew her than the people from the outside looking in. And because of that, maybe they mention it, not for her, but just for the
Regardless
sake of
of her, Jon Favreau created that character and probably loves that character, regardless of it being Gina or not.
So I'm
Mhm.
thinking, if Rangers is now not happening anymore, what if it is one of those things where they need to call all these people in and someone makes a comment like, you know, can you check in with the Rangers, the Ranger squad or whatever, and it's a nod to like her because she was supposed to be starting that thing with like Bill Burr and those characters or something. It could be one of those like types of things.
Right.
Do you
right.
think we're in the world of like recasting?
Nah.
Okay.
They'll
I
never
don't think
touch that character.
I didn't think so either, and I believe we've had that discussion because it's like I would feel really bad for the person that they bring in to play that character because like they just kinda
Exactly.
come in with
Like
baggage
Lucy
and stuff.
Lawless.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't want to make it seem like I'm disagreeing. Because I do understand your point and I don't know where the line is, but I think I'm a little bit more on the line of like I think it's not that important for them to even bother to address it at
Right, it's
all
not
I think
for
that's
that
fair.
detrimental to the
particular
story.
character. We're not talking
Yeah.
about like how Roseanne turns into the Connors, and they have to address that
Sure.
issue
Like,
of
great
How did they
where
analogy.
address
did
that,
that
by the way?
character go.
She went to
She
jail
died?
or something.
No, she
Yeah,
didn't.
she went to prison.
Yeah.
She
No,
died.
I'm pretty sure they killed her off. Yeah. They
Oh, I
said
thought
that
she
she
got like
just like had a
arrested.
heart attack and died or something.
Oh, jeez. All right.
And then the show picks up with the daughter trying to like lead the family because she's just not like I don't know what to do anymore. Anyway,
Is anybody?
I here nor
Did
there.
anyone watch
I'm not positive on that. I could be wrong, but that was my understanding.
I thought she went to like jail for like something stupid. But anyway, I know we're getting close to being up against time here, and we probably just scratched the surface, and there's more coming. Like we're going to be talking a lot about Mando heading into season 1, and of course the Mando fan show, and we're excited to reveal our
You
guests
mean
that we're going to
season
be.
3? Heading into season 3?
What did I say?
Season 1.
Well, breaking the fourth wall here. It's 1 a.m. as I'm recording this. So,
Side note: yes, they did kill her from an overdose on pain medication.
oh
And I
God,
think I remember it being something like they said, yeah, we didn't know she was doing this. She must have had all these problems or something. But they made it
so
a very special episode on the Connors.
Very special.
I know we did a lot of big speculation and stuff. Let me ask you this final question, and then we're gonna do more speculation on this. This is like the only episode we're doing speculating
Yeah,
on Mando
Mandalorian
season
done until it comes to
3. But do you guys think this season of The Mandalorian will have the Mandalorians of all different creeds unite because of the threat, whatever it may be? Because clearly there's more to an antagonistic side of the story than just, Moff Gideon or whatever. So, and Mandalorians fighting each other.
I would say no, because that's something that should be saved for the finale. Like, I'm thinking like Rise of Skywalker, where all those people come together at the end and you're like, hooray, the people have shown
Yeah.
up. I think this season is going to be a little bit on the darker side of him realizing what's right and what's wrong, exploring who he is and where his culture comes from, and then also searching for these different groups.
Mm-hmm. I could
Okay.
like I think like if I'm wrong, then maybe, that sounds cool. I like that. But based on what I had pitched earlier, if that's the way the season goes, I see season 3 being about building up this civil war of Mandalorians, and by the end of it, you're just left with like, oh my gosh, like that was not good. Like that
Mhm,
didn't end
mhm.
right. And season 4 could be potentially starting at that bottom and building to what you're talking about. And then the people who didn't die in the war, whatever, that are left. And then again, this kind is, I said Civil War, but like it does kind of remind me of like, where do you take the MCU? And they're like, well, we'll just have them fight each other. And then by the end of that movie, they didn't come together. The end of that movie, they were apart. And
Right.
it took the next movie or multiple movies for them to come back together. And that all led to Infinity War and Endgame. And you're like, wow, like what a journey we've been on. So
Mhm,
I could see
mhm.
all the Mandalorian creeds revealing themselves and then fighting and establishing what they want Mandalore to be. And then like, the end of season 4, you see like someone lift up the blade and it's like a million hands in the air, or whatever.
Like
It's
Ready
okay,
Player One, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, or something that's along those lines. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And the last thing I just thought of was, again, Giancarlo Esposito, loose lips. But he did say something about when they were filming and there were concerns about The Last of Us and Pedro Pascal's availability. And he said, we're able to film a lot without Pedro, which to me says Mando's going to have his helmet on again, like almost the whole time again. So it's not going to be one of those things where now that he took it off and he got sort of cast out by the Children of the Watch, that he's going to like be like, all right, I'm just going to keep my helmet off now, sort of like Bo-Katan. He's going to be back in his helmet a lot. So I don't know if that's telling to anything or like whose side is he on? Is he trying to win back favor with the Armorer and Paz Vizsla? But as of now, is according to the Armorer, he's not a Mandalorian, but he has the Darksaber. So it's like kind of wild in that regard. So I'm interested because I wasn't the biggest Clone Wars fan. I like Rebels. I'm interested to see a lot more of the lore of Mandalorians, especially now with all these different creeds and stuff. So everything you guys have said and that we've shared here, it's like I like that we really don't know, but there's so many possibilities.
Can I say one more thing that will lead into the excitement for Mandalorian season 3? Is that I think one problem, and I've talked about this before, maybe some people don't consider it a problem, but I think one problem with Star Wars TV is that it's easily forgotten. We watch it and we go, wow, that was really cool. And then it's like, we hardly ever go back and revisit it like we do in movies. And every time that I've gone back to rewatch episodes of The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, if I revisit a moment or a scene, I remember, I'm like, my thoughts on this now after the fact are a lot different than when I'm actually in the moment watching this show, and it's great. Another just crazy example is like, we've gotten some access to see the new season of Bad Batch. So I went back and rewatched some of the old Bad Batch, and I'm like, this show is so good. Why don't we talk about this more often? This is incredible, the stuff that they're doing in some of these episodes. And so it's just like, it's one of those things, like, I think we remember The Mandalorian being pretty awesome, but it's like when you actually go back and see it and you're in that moment and you're watching new content, it's even more awesome than you remember. Like, I think we take away less than what it actually is as a piece of content. That's why I think the movies are so good, because we know that content in and out. Whereas The Mandalorian, or any of these shows, we have a vague memory of it being pretty good. We liked it. Yeah, that was awesome. But it's like, we're not going to like really soak in the character arcs and the moments and how they breathe and those characters talk to each other and stuff. It's like you have to be in the moment to enjoy it in that way, and television often forgot. But we are about to enter in a season of the show that everybody's hyped for.
Yeah, no question. Lacey, any final thoughts?
Can it just be March already?
I know, especially just for the sake of like skipping winter.
Well, I like Christmas, but yeah.
All right.
And do get excited for like 3 months of the Bad Batch coming out.
Yeah.
That starts January 4th.
Yeah, I gotta start. I'm gonna start watching this week and check those out just to get an idea of those. And I know we can't really talk about them or anything, but it debuts January 4th. First 2 episodes, right?
Correct.
Like
Yes.
So yeah, and which why James is gonna do reviews on those, which is really cool. And if you feel overextended, maybe I'll pop one in there. We'll see. But
I think the way that I'm going to do it is not watching the whole season and then doing all the episodes, because
That's a
I
good
want
idea.
the episodes to be like, I'm going to speculate with you guys.
Yeah.
I will have recorded them before the episodes air, but I will have not seen what's coming.
You should
Mhm.
you should totally do the opposite
Yeah.
and fake speculate and nail everything.
No, I should just watch them in reverse order and be like trying to piece it back. Like,
"Oh my God,
how is this going to start?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh yeah. Oh man. All right, cool. Well, we hope everyone enjoyed our discussion, our hype. Well, hopefully you're more hyped as we are for a Mandalorian season 3. We hope you enjoyed this episode. So thank you for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. It means a great deal. And as Lacey said, if you want more and you want to have more time with us and more of our content and our community, Patreon is the way. So patreon.com/resistance broadcast. $5 a month, start your tiers. So if grandma sends you some fat cash for Christmas and you say, yeah, I want to be a part of TRB, come aboard, come hang. We appreciate all the support because it means a great deal and helps us look for the future. So, and also subscribe on your preferred platforms. And then as far as finding us, you can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. And quick thanks to my co-host Mike, who had his brother make me a Funko of me.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Look at that solo shirt, the sneakers, the jeans, and the swagger. Lacey, did it nail the swagger?
You have
Wait, sorry,
swagger?
you said swagger? Yeah.
I knew that was coming. I always set myself up for that stuff. All right, that's why they love us, though.
Needs a little
You just
headphones
tried
coming
to
out.
get it right into the hoop, and I just swatted it.
Hey, look, what are you gonna do? Technical foul on Gillerin. All right, Lacey, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gillerin.
And soon, TRB podcasts on TikTok. I can't believe it.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
James.
And then me, both Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks, where you can find me.
All right. Don't forget, everybody, Thursday. I know, sometimes maybe you don't join us live because we do the podcast feeds after, but we're doing our sort of holiday party, 8:30 East, Thursday night. Still talking Star Wars, but it's going to be festive. It's going to be decorative. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have some snacks, drinks, giveaways, unboxing. So it's going to be a heck of a party. So if you can join us live, join us Thursday at 8:30 East, right here at youtube.com/@theresistance broadcast. And then, of course, it will be on your podcast feeds thereafter. And if you are a patron Admiral and up, after party, which is always a good time with those bi-monthly calls on Patreon. So thank you all so much for joining us. Keep getting hyped for Mando. Let's do it. And I hope you have a great week. And we'll see you next time right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.